Hello and welcome to Deep Blue Sea, the podcast. I am Mark Gigglewater Hoffmeyer.
Oh, damn it. And I am Jay. Swap up that.
I knew it. I knew it.
Swap up that giggle water is the full quote. Clue it. Damn it. So few quotes in this film. Welcome you aboard Deep Blue Sea, the podcast. On this show, Mark and I have been through the entire Deep Blue Sea trilogy, scene by scene. Now looking at some Deep Blue Sea adjacent films. That's films directed by Rennie Harlan featuring aquatic action or sharks. And this is those last two, sharks, aquatic action, as we talk about USS Indianapolis, Men of Courage. What is USS Indianapolis Men of Courage? Poorly titled. It's
a lot of movie.
It's a lot of words. It's a 2016 American war film starring Nicolas Cage, directed by Mary Van Peebles, also featuring likes of Tom Sizemore, Thomas Jane, James Remar, a bunch of character actors here. Well, some character actors here and a couple of women, not many. It's mainly
Alabama shoreline.
Yes, indeed. And a bunch of sharks. Because this is, if you've seen Jaws, it's the Quint speech. It's that one. It's the story of that. The true story. Nick Cage is Captain Charles McVeigh, captain of the Portland-class heavy cruiser USS Indianapolis, delivering the bomb in World War II. And the hilarity that ensues afterwards. So this film was picked by someone. We have a guest today joining us. I love when people pick films that no one else seems to want. So joining us to talk about USS Indianapolis Men of Courage, he's done this once before actually, because no one else wants to talk about 12 rounds either, is Aaron Neuwirth. Aaron, welcome back to the show.
Well, just call me Waxman. That's for one thing. Why would no one want to do 12 rounds? That's been mind-boggling.
Hey, on that show, you were like, I remembered liking this film more.
So, John Cena's running in that movie haunts me, but I still enjoy it a lot.
Yes, it is a movie that's nice to reflect on. Not necessarily more to watch, but like, yes, I do pump it up in my mind, I think, more than the act. But I mean, it is fun.
I mean, it features a helicopter exploding over a swimming pool and they have to jump for it in the air on top of a skyscraper. Like any movie that features that.
It's just my Saturday nights.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how Aaron, whenever he visits, he just lands on the roof.
Yeah, I always zigzag in the air too. Speaking of this movie, I picked this one. If you asked, did you ask that question?
I mean, feel free to answer it. Why did you pick this film?
The cool answer would be is because it is the Quint speech, and I'm like, yeah, let's see what that movie actually is, to see like that speech come to light, despite the fact that it's a true story, but see his speech be turned into a movie essentially. The real answer is I just kind of wanted to see it. I don't know. I was curious, and this is a good excuse.
This is the first time watched for all three of us, I think.
Yes, yeah.
I
don't feel like I'd watch this a second time.
I watched it twice.
Yeah, I don't know where I was going with this one. Like the beginning has they spend a lot of money. I looked at, like, they filmed it in Alabama, and there's press releases where like we need 2,000 extras for scenes to come out and shoot in USS Indianapolis, and like the helicopter, or not the helicopter, the auditorium and the dance scenes, and like they needed 2,000 extras. And then I see the horrifying VFX of the ships in the beginning, and I'm like, they probably should have put money elsewhere for other parts, but I didn't know where this movie was going. I don't know.
I mean, I knew where it was going.
Well, yeah, but like, I'm like,
but the last half hour after the film ends, there's another half hour of film.
These men are getting slaughtered in the water, and there's like the worst looking VFX sharks. Like it's almost played for laughs, and you're like, what? What were they thinking? And then
they seem so proud of the effects. Like the boat going under the bridge is like, it sits on that shot for ages.
The problem is you set this up wrong. You said they spent a lot of money. They didn't. That's why this movie doesn't look bad. This movie doesn't look good because of that.
I feel like they spent a lot of money up front with the houses and the dresses and the costumes, and like
the production value up front is fine, yes, but it's like that's not stuff that's like super expensive to like requisition or make or what have you. It's just like rooms and costumes.
That's not the bit watching the film for. That's not the story of the USS Indianapolis.
No, but Mark's not wrong as far as if you're trying to create a period aesthetic, the opening minutes at least deliver a period aesthetic.
They do, yeah.
Once the meat of the film kicks in, as far as high seas adventure featuring World War II battleships and submarines and shark action, you kind of hope the money is a little front screen in that section.
Because it looks expensive to begin with. And it really does. Like, there's some good, like Van Peebles, he sets up, our Jaws of Revenge alum coming back to direct this. But you're like, man, like this is a big scene. They got a lot of extras for this, and there's a crane, and there's old timey cars, and Like, I was like, this looks quite expensive. And then you just go, oh my gosh. Like it but still, I'm telling y'all, like Remar, he pops up in Oppenheimer, then this, and then you got TJ popping up. It's thank you for recommending this because I had quite the journey with this movie. I was never bored.
Well, I got a little bored.
I'm thrilled we've covered it. I'm thrilled that we've watched it and it's crossed off now.
I'm
Yeah.
happy that I've seen it. I've seen it's weird. I've seen a number of Van Peebles movies as of late because so last year on the summer of '93 at 30 podcast I was co-hosting on, we watched Posse,
Yeah.
the Black Western that he directed, which is quite good. And I've already seen New Jack, so I've seen that before. But then I watched Badass pretty recently, which was him telling the story of his father's film, Sweet Sweetback. And then what did I just watch? What's the other one?
Solo.
Oh, his
Highlander
new
3.
film, his new film, Outlaw Posse, that just came out. I reviewed that. So I'm like, I got a lot of which also has Mandela Van Peebles, who's in this movie. So like, I got a lot of Van Peebles in me in the last couple months here. And so yeah, now it's like, oh, fine, let's get his big movie out of the way. Let's see how that goes.
$40 million budget this movie has.
That's that's like more than the average Nick Cage direct-to-video, basically kind of movie. This had some theatrical release, but not a big one.
Jeez Louise. But like,
yeah, I mean, compare this to when we started doing Con Air, we covered Primal as like the bridge between Deep Sea and Con Air, and there was a coin toss between that and this. And I would say I preferred this to Primal.
yeah.
Because Primal feels like it could have been so much more. I mean, this does too. But Primal was such a disappointment.
I guess that's fair. This one delivers on what it's going for more than Primal does. That's a fair assessment. I could agree with that.
I found a great Nicolas Cage quote. He wrote, "One of my dreams or first loves is the ocean. And my dream has always been to do a movie that takes place at sea. I haven't been able to get that to happen yet. I almost did a picture with Ron Howard called The Sea Wolf. Then he's like, I almost did Perfect Storm, but that didn't work out. So I was like, I'm really frustrated here. I want to play Captain Nemo. And then he got this script and he's like, all right, let's do it.
Would he have been the Clooney, I guess, in Perfect Storm? I'd assume
I was
so.
trying to think.
He'd have to be. He wouldn't be the Wahlberg. He's not the ingenue.
He's the Fichtner.
Well, no, he wouldn't be the ingenue. He wouldn't be the younger character. He wouldn't. But he's an A-list star in 2000, so he'd be the Clooney. He'd be the lead.
Yeah,
I feel like whatever role he'd be on that ship would become elevated, so he could be the William Fichtner and just get more to do. Because I can see him being
possibly.
That kind of,
but I don't see him playing like
tightly
fifth
wound.
build in that movie.
But
especially not in the 90s, right? That was 98.
Well, even then, he's not the captain. He's not the first mate, so he'd still be third build at least. That's weird for Cage at that point.
Yeah.
Oh, 2000.
Have you guys seen? Have you talked Perfect Storm for this show?
No,
we
too
haven't.
serious.
It's too serious. That's your thing.
I was working.
What are we talking about here?
This is a Nick Cage shark film. What are you talking about?
It is a shark film. It's too serious. The storms have collided.
But it's like we haven't done Captain Phillips either because that's too serious.
That's legit
That's
too serious. That's not a summer blockbuster like The Perfect Storm was.
I was working in a theater when it came out. This
Storm.
thing did business. Perfect Storm did a lot of money.
It did. It was a big hit.
Yeah,
I do love it as well.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it in full since 2000 when I saw it in theaters. So I watched like the first 20 minutes the other day while I was having dinner. And I've forgotten most of this movie. So like I watched the beginning, and we're talking about this movie right now for some reason. But Clooney, I like how his character is. They're all in New England. Everyone has a New England accent. Clooney's like, no, thank you. I'm going to be Clooney. that's my deal here.
Oh,
so we've done part 3 of the Wolfgang Petersen Aquatic trilogy. We've done Poseidon.
Yeah,
okay.
But we haven't done Das Boot yet either. We've yet to do a submarine film. Yeah, Das Boot is.
Wait, what's
we've
the
never
middle
done a submarine
about?
We did,
Perfect Storm.
Perfect Storm. Yeah.
Wait, I thought you've done them. Oh, okay.
Oh, we did.
We've done Poseidon.
You've done Poseidon.
Perfect Storm or Das Boot.
I got to talk about my Curdy Russ movies.
Yeah, but I think USS Indianapolis is the closest we've come to doing a submarine film. I'm not big on submarine films. I find them often boring. That's why I've never really covered one on this show.
Have you seen a lot of them? Because I used to.
No,
feel
I
that
haven't.
Way. Then I've started to see more. I'm like, oh, there's just better versions of this. That's where I
really like. I really like Das Boot, but when I watched that, it was I was locked in a hotel room for 2 weeks during one of the worst periods of my life. So I feel like I was like, just whatever I would have watched would have been
it's
great.
the right way to do it. Yeah,
exactly. That's how it was supposed to be watched. And but I don't like Hunt for October. It's not like I don't like it. I'm just bored by it. And so I just don't watch many submarine
Down
films. That's
Periscope?
End of list. Haven't seen Down
Don't
Periscope. Haven't seen
start.
Crimson Tide.
Get
Haven't seen
Mark's recommendations out of
K19.
here. Give it the silly one.
U571?
Haven't seen
U571.
U571.
Have you Crimson Tide?
Nope.
See, now that's like Cracker Jack, Tony Scott entertainment right there. Like if you
Had that recommended to me yesterday.
if you don't watch if you watch that and you're not a fan of it, then you can just skip everything else.
Okay.
Because like that, I'm not saying it's dumb, but it's certainly like because it's not. It's a pretty smart movie, but it's so like fired up for the Jerry Bruckheimer energy that it brings to it, which you should be all about because look at the Con Air podcast you did.
Sure.
Like I mean, so if that one doesn't do it for you, then it's just not a genre for you. That's
okay.
good.
A lot of raised voices in Crimson Tide, pointing fingers.
See, that's all
Side
submarine
changes.
films are. That's what
Like-
they're like action films with no action. Because it's just people yelling at each other in confined spaces. And
That's the gift of Tony Scott. He'll make everything
Yeah,
more
that's-
interesting.
And there's
Okay.
a lot of smoke. And I don't know how it happens, but there's a lot of smoke in that boat.
I'll give Crimson Tide a go, and we'll go from there. But the submarine action in USS Indianapolis Moon of Courage was some of the best stuff in this. I think it's the Japanese perspective. It's like humanizing that side of the war. I've not seen a lot of that in these kinds of films, and I appreciated that. I thought it was well handled.
The best moment takes place at the end when McVeigh and Hashimoto speak and talk about, like, could I have done anything different? And then they talk. Like
as a man, I have regrets.
That moment is so. After what I had just witnessed, and like watching that scene, I was like, this is a good moment, and it came out of nowhere, and I liked it. That's probably the best moment.
It works because the script for this is pretty much terrible end to end as far as like dialogue is concerned, because it's a lot of like very cliche dialogue and much of it's bad. In that scene, because he has to play a character who doesn't like have English, because like the actor is fine. I've seen him be English and fine. So he has to play a character who's foreign to the country essentially, and like speaking English best he can to Nick Cage, who can at least deliver these scenes better. So having them speak between each other about honor and what have you, that works better than most of the rest of this film, where it's just like tough guys talking tough stuff on a boat. Like it's all right. Like I got plenty of or crazy guys in the water talking about tough things in the water. Like at least that scene has a little respect to it, so I can appreciate it. I agree.
Yeah, just a little. It's just good. It's a totally cromulent scene. And after watching that scene, we're like, not in the raft, crap bird. And then the guy gets decapitated by a CGI shark.
Yeah.
And then
love it.
And then you have I was like, what? And then the Nick Cage jump scare, like this. I'm telling you, this movie I was very intrigued by, because the big production values up front, the like energy that they were trying to capture with all the dancing, and then you get on the boat and it's some of the worst VFX I've ever. It's like Asylum level VFX. And then the boat sinks, and you have a couple good moments when they're just chilling in Alabama on the coast, floating around in rafts. A couple good moments there. Then you have some really gnarly, cheesy kills, and then you have this Nick Cage court drama at the end. And I mean, it also has a face-off reunion, which makes me happy. But yeah, it's man, I'm telling y'all, it was a roller coaster. This USS Indianapolis is a roller coaster. I thought it was going to be much.
It's a boat, but okay.
I thought it was like a $5 million budgeted movie that was gonna like crush my soul.
I was surprised at how quickly we got to the boat sinking portion. I thought the shark action was gonna be like the third act. Like it's like, and now they're stuck in the water and what have you. But like
the ship gets hit at 40 minutes. It's sunk by 52.
Yeah,
and then the plane arrives at 95. So they're in the water for half an hour.
Yeah, that's and this movie's over 2 hours. Like, but so we're like in the boat crashing. Do we have a structure to this, or are we just like talking about this movie?
Just go.
Just talk about it.
Okay, fine. I'm like, am I jumping ahead? I don't know. So the boat sinking sequence, you can tell that Peebles and like his VFX guys are like, just do Titanic. Like, all right, just make that up. So like, okay, yeah.
Have a guy drop some keys.
Trapped underneath. They got to get out of a jail apparently for some reason. The boat has to split in half. So like it's first
fall down the deck.
Then it splits. Then it goes up again. Then there's guys hitting the thing while they're falling down. It's like it hit. The Titanic playbook is hit very well throughout this sequence.
Which I loved when that happened in Avatar: Way of Water, when it's just the whole Titanic acted into that. So I enjoy any reference to Titanic. Be it Cameron doing it again or Van Peebles, because that's a perfect film we haven't covered yet.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, Payakon
so
is
much.
one of the best characters of all of the
Yep.
21st century. But this movie, I mean, yes, is it nice to see something like that? Sure. Is it nicer when Cameron does it? Yes, it is.
Yes,
So it's the
Yes,
answer to that
absolutely,
question.
100%.
It-
Cameron would have had a field day with this film. He would have. Oh, Cameron's USS Indianapolis is incredible.
but
Um,
my problem with this movie is
go on.
okay. So
Just the one.
like Saving Private Ryan, it's a super action movie, but the deaths are felt. Like the deaths hurt. Like the deaths are brutal. Giovanni Ribisi when Adam Goldberg goes down, the shushing scene, and just the doom you feel whenever someone dies. It's a very heavy, gritty film. And I know this isn't that movie, but we're watching a true story that's incredibly harrowing about people who are just left at sea and dying of a wealth of things are out there killing them. And then you just get these really cheeky VFX shark kills. And it's like, I just, it's not the right direction for something like this.
Yeah.
This isn't,
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't even want to see a super, like, I don't even want to see Paul Greengrass's version of this. I don't
would.
like
It look
More-
it
more
look
than
better.
this.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
It'd
it's
be
so
better
many
than this,
graphic,
yeah.
like United 93, but Indianapolis. But
Yeah.
but I mean, something like Captain Phillips, I think, is
oh yeah,
visceral and entertaining, and like I'm not gonna say fun, but like it's doing the work to put you in that moment and feel the stress of the situation, but also it's got the detail down. It has the stuff that Greengrass knows how to bring. Also, he has a major movie studio giving him the money to do so.
yeah. And Tom
When I
Hanks acting his face off.
when I first heard Nick Cage signs up to do a USS Indianapolis story, I'm thinking, cool, like that's a good thing. And then the more I hear about it, as far as like what studio is doing it, was like, okay, so we're not doing like a real version of this movie. I'll just sit here and wait for the actual movie that comes out the deal, because it's like this is a good. It is the kind of story that easily delivers a bunch of stuff you can put in a movie. It's got World War II drama. It's got an actual like real life situation involving a ship that sank. It has shark action in it. It has a courtroom case. Like all of that stuff is like great. That's literally Angelina Jolie's Unbroken. That's literally that movie.
Yeah.
That's that
Yeah.
also true story. A lot of sharks and World War II things combined at that time.
Mhm.
This
I'll
one
add that
just
to the list.
40 million dollars. It's not going to cut it for a movie like this that has to encapsulate, hundreds of people dying in a huge disaster. That's America's fault. Like, it's just hard. It's hard to make that work on on this level.
Absolutely. And I guess Phillips had like cost 15 million more to make, but I mean, Greengrass is such a smart director though. Like he's been like Bloody Sunday is like one of my favorite movies, so he knew what he was doing. Like he knew how to get the action, how to make it tight. This one just it's an odd one. Like I feel like it came together very quickly. And I know Patriot Films put it out. They don't have like the best track record. Then Saban released it.
Hmm.
But I don't know. This one's what the actors try. I don't know. This is a really weird movie for me to talk about because it's not like a $5 million just like a score to settle with Nick Cage or one of those types of films. And then it's not a Captain Phillips or a big budget Bonanza. It's somewhere in the middle, and it's not terrible, but it's also bad, and it has really like it's just I'm telling y'all, this is a roller coaster for me. I wish I was more articulate and I could explain it, but
I mean, it's putting in the work as far as it wants to be this thing. It does feel like people are attempting to give a level of respectability to like in their terms of performance, in terms of the staging of scenes, even the music is, there's a genericness to it as far as what kind of movie we're making, but it still feels like there's an effort there to be like, yeah, the Indianapolis story, it's important, what have you. Like we give it the it's like when they started making Sharknado sequels, they're like, we'll give it a few extra $1 million because, this is a big thing now. It feels like this is higher quality than that, but it's still like it has the reference as far as this studio normally doesn't produce films of a certain caliber, and this one has the opportunity to try to do more with that. The problem is, it's poorly written, and
there's too much foresharking.
It's still not enough money.
Yeah, there's so much foreshadowing of sharks too, with the shark, the rack focus on the shark mouth, Tom Sizemore's monologue, the guy saying if there's blood, it's bad. And I'm like, I don't know, guys. I wouldn't be joking around about it's like we're getting there, guys. Like it's like telling the audience we're almost there. Shark's going to be eating people soon, but there's a lot of
But then
foresharking in it.
when they're in the water, every like 5 minutes, like there's a realization to oh, there's sharks here. And everyone scrambles to get back into the rafts, and then as like someone gets eaten. Cut to everyone's back in the water again. So people see sharks scramble to get back in the rafts again. It's just repeat for
Yeah.
too many times.
It's like the segment of, I'm not going to say this is what I wanted to see most, but obviously you hear a story from Quint and Jaws about this situation where they're all trapped at sea and there's sharks. It's like, kind of want to see that the most. And it's the least effective part of this movie. Like it's really annoying.
Yeah, it is.
And it's very repetitive. And I wrote on my notes, where did I write it? I wrote, why do they keep getting back in the water? Exclamation point, exclamation point.
Because there's a certain energy to the beginning, and then the end, there's some good moments. And then the middle's just when it should be good, but it's a bit soul crushing.
Yeah, and we're told there's like so many hundred men in the water, and we're given some like vague locations of like there's this group here, there's this group 2.5 miles east of them, and then there's Nick Cage like south. I think they say just like no kind of distance at all, just like a mile or what. But you don't get any kind of sense of where they are. Can they see each other?
It didn't do a good job of that until a plane finally flew over them, and it's like, why didn't we see this earlier to get a sense of like where these people are? Like it's so scattered in presenting the idea of geography. Because I kept wondering, is like, wait, why isn't Nick Cage like next to them? Like, why is he? Oh, he's over. Why does he have to go back and forth? Like, why did he just stay there completely? Bring Sizemore and his half a leg. Like, what are we doing?
How's my kid? Oh, your kid's gonna be great.
Like, oh my god, what's he write? I wrote Sizemore, new kid, so he's dead. I wrote that in my notes.
Yeah. I mean, even when he's alive, Sizemore has never looked worse than he does in this film. I think
he's in that.
He's not looking good.
He has a Steadicam monologue too, where he's walking through the ship, and I like when he stops and just looks at something and kind of gives it a little tweak, and then looks at the guy in the boat and goes, like gives him a head nod, and then keeps walking.
All due respect to Sizemore, like this is he died last year now at this point. Yeah. This is in this period where he's trying to recover himself as a person. He's like coming out of like really hard times along with other things going on in his life. And the year later, he's in Twin Peaks. So he's presumably he's filming that probably around the same time as this thing. And he's very good in that. I'm not gonna say he's bad here. I think he's fine, but like I could see the toll of like just the stress of his body and whatnot, trying to get himself back together. It's very much showing here. And he's playing someone that I feel is supposed to be younger than he's playing it. Like just based on his because he's older than or not is he older than Cage? I think he's older than let's see.
He was born in 61.
He's
Cage was born in 64. So he's 3 years older.
Yeah, so I feel like Sizemore is playing a person that that's supposed to not be older than Cage here, and so it shows, and the way they're like presenting him is like, I don't know about this ranking situation we have here, unless he's a really terrible officer. But
he's done other films we could cover. Maverick. He's in Megalodon Rising from 2021, which has a 2.1 on IMDb.
That's got Mark written all over it.
Yeah.
Too big to fail is its tagline.
I got something real quick. Wellgo USA sent me 4 copies of Crocodile Island on DVD. So if you're listening and you live in the States, and you're like, hey, I would like a DVD copy of Crocodile Island from Wellgo USA, shoot me a message, Mark Hoffmeyer, and I can get you a copy of Wellgo USA's Crocodile Island. Just letting you know.
Now, Crocodile Island, is that an island that's ran by crocodiles, or crocodiles surround the island?
Or is the island one big crocodile?
Is it one big crocodile? Is it shaped like a crocodile?
See, I want that movie now. Like, you don't know, like you're on a resort, and it just turns out to be a gigantic crocodile.
Whoa. It's like a Life of Pi situation where the island is trying to eat you.
Yeah. Oh, so there's just dinosaurs on an island, and they're trying to eat people.
I mean, that's not a crocodile at all. Yeah, that's dinosaur.
But I want this movie now. Like, you're like, oh yeah, I got this new condo. Like, where? I don't know. Like,
so it's a Bermuda Triangle movie. That's what it is. Okay, got it.
Where is it? I don't know. The island just keeps moving. Could be anywhere.
It's at one of these 3 corners.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Yeah, I had to get that. If you want a copy, shoot me a message, and we can work something out. You can get a Wellgo USA Crocodile Island. But
I-
no.
I forgot Sizemore was in Passenger 57.
Listen, he's been
Yeah.
he's been good in so many movies, and I think
Sly
you're right,
Del
Aaron.
Vecchio.
Like he's not bad in this one, but I don't really think anybody's bad in this movie. I really don't. I
disagree. Who's
the script though? The script, like
who's the guy that goes to the mysterious island that's always yelling at people?
oh
Is
yeah, that
Bama?
guy. Yeah,
he's
really bad.
Standish or something.
Yeah, he's the one that talks about the giggle water.
Yeah, that guy sucks.
Yeah, that's
Standish.
Get him out of here.
But like the writing for him was so bad, so you don't even know if these people could be good, if that makes sense. Because
I mean, when you're unless your name's Nick Cage, Tom Sizemore, Thomas Jane, or James Remar, you're in this movie because you're not good enough to be in the other movies. I mean, that's kind of where we're at here. No offense.
Well, you're
to
not
these other
established
actors, but
enough.
I mean,
They're on their way up.
They're these guys are old enough to have, if they're going to be established, they would have been established by now. They're not one of the white Chris's.
They're not going to be voicing Mario.
Matt Lanter is not like, priming for his time to shine here. He's 40 years old at this point. It's like, again, work is work. Being an actor is an actor. Not everybody can be an A-list actor. I entirely get that. And the level of performance that's going on here, I'm not expecting this to be Oscar caliber. Like, I can't believe that, people didn't catch on to how great, Bama was in USS Indianapolis. But, they're kind of where they, quote unquote, belong as far as being in these kind of movies versus being in Captain Phillips. It's where they're at.
No, it's fair. I don't know.
Yes, if this is a better movie with better writing or what have you, sure. I'd imagine there could better work could come out of that. I don't disagree with that notion. Sure.
Just a lot. I'm gonna say this for the 8th time. This is an odd one. But it very much, there are movies that just really bore me to tears, and they don't try, and I feel like they're just very mediocre. But I sensed just from the beginning that, like, I'm not trying to sound like reductive or insult, but like the script was very misguided, and I think the whole thing was misguided. But it was nice to see them at least take it seriously and not just try to make something for international distribution with a name on the top slapped on there so they could get sales all around the world and take it to con and sell it internationally. Like, this one seemed to be an earnest attempt at something. Yeah, and so that automatically made it better than most of these kinds of movies.
I think that comes from Mario Van Peebles as a director. I think he's guiding this in a way where it's like, he's working with what he's working with, but it's like, I still have the desire to make a movie that's respectable when it comes to this specific story, since it's, this American disaster thing. Like, there's potential there to create something that resonates in a way that other direct-to-video Nicolas Cage films don't. Honestly, you look at Nick Cage's films and you look at that kind of 2010s patch of stuff that's not all that great. The ones that shine are ones with better directors involved. There's a Joel Schumacher film in there. There's Mandy and Joe. That's in that later period where he's like, now I'm choosing things because I want to, and not because I have to pay my taxes. Like, so that those shine by default because they're just better projects. But like, Stolen and like what he's got. There's a lot of these. But
I just think about Josh Lucas's hair in that one when I think about.
Why pick out the Simon West film? What are you talking about?
Yeah. But you're right, though. I think, he's had a good,
here we go. Army of One, Arsenal, Vengeance, Inconceivable, Dog Eat Dog, The Trust.
He's good in that one. I like The Trust.
The Trust. He that's him and Wood, right?
Yeah.
And Elijah Wood. Yeah,
like that. Kind of mean.
Pay the Ghost. Just a lot of this stuff that doesn't have much going for it beyond the fact that Nick Cage is like, sure, why not? But like something like this, or like what Mom and Dad, like these ones have a little more going for it than just the average one of these.
That has the Maniacs directing it. What, Neville Dean and Taylor?
I think it's just Taylor.
Just Taylor. Yeah. Man, those Crank movies are insane, y'all.
Yeah, give me that third one. Well, strike while the beekeeper's hot.
That's what I say. I mean, he is hot right now. He's got the Meg.
So hot right now.
Does not Expendables 4, which I can't stand spelling. Like, even Google tries to correct me. Like, it knows the title of the movie, and it's not spelled like this.
I don't know what you're talking about. All I saw was exportables. So.
Yeah,
Expendables.
But what's interesting? So for me, Mario Van Peebles, I grew up watching him in Highlander 3. he's really bonkers in that movie, by the way. And then like Jaws Revenge, and then he kind of disappeared, but it's kind of fun to see all of his directing credits. Like he's done Sons of Anarchy, Boss, like he works. He did Bloodline,
He's
Be
always
Mary
been busy.
Jane. Yeah,
Um,
no, it's kind of cool.
he's in this
If
realm where I always think he could have been bigger, and I don't know what stopped him, beyond just the idea of Posse didn't do well, and if you're a black director in Hollywood and your movie doesn't do well, you only get so many chances to do more.
I actually just did a data piece for Fandom where I talked about best director and the Oscars, and there's like a stat, you're right, but this is more for like women when it comes to that. But like women, if they have a dud, like they make a movie and then like I think that the stats are overwhelmingly like a man will get another opportunity to
Oh yeah,
direct,
of
and
course.
they'll like it's kind of crazy. Like you have one dud, like Karen Kusama makes one dud, or like Jane Campion makes one dud, and
Look at like Patty Jenkins, who makes
yeah,
Wonder
gosh,
Woman the first one, and it's like she's great. We love Monster. We always Monster all day, and then she made this Wonder Woman movie. Can't, oh my god, it's amazing. Then it's like we don't like the sequel as much. All of that goodwill is entirely gone. Get out of our Star Wars, lady. Like what? Because the rest of the DC films are so amazing. Like, what are we doing here? Like,
I remember watching Wonder Woman 84 and just
which I like.
smiling.
I
Yeah, I
think it's fine.
smiled the entire time, but I went, people are going to hate this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my first thought, but I loved it. I was like, this is crazy, and I'm in it. So, yeah, but yeah, then she lost her Star Wars movie, and then they didn't get another Wonder
Well,
Woman.
now she's supposedly getting it back because
Oh,
like, the idea was he was going to make Wonder Woman 3, and that's what stopped Star Wars. Like, I can't do both at the same time. And now, but now, the Snyderverse has been shot in an alley and left in a ditch, and now George Clooney's left to pick up the pieces, because he's Batman now. And so now he's like, well, I guess I'll write that Star Wars Rogue Squadron draft and see where we go from there. Anyway, this movie.
Oh yeah.
The other thing, I was surprised how much Nicolas Cage is in this. Like, I like that he's not just, he's not just like the lead because he's the biggest star, but he's only in it for like 20 minutes, but they edit it so it seems like he's in it longer. He's in a lot of this movie. He's like in the
And
whole movie.
yeah, and he's in the water. He's like
Mhm.
doing stuff. He's like
Yeah.
splashing around and swimming, and he's not just pretending he's bobbing on a raft. He's bobbing on a raft.
So it made me
with a
think,
tiny
like, Mark,
oar.
you talk about like them trying, like that makes it feel like, yeah, like Nick Cage like this seems like a thing he wanted to do. It's like, yeah, there's a good story here, and I think I could be this captain, and
Yeah.
it works to his advantage as far as what he's able to deliver.
And also like Mario Van Peebles had a small role in Cotton Club too, so they were kind of they've known each other for a long time, Van Peebles and Cage. So it's like a guy he's known, he's respected in the industry for a long time. It's a good story. Yeah, he's in that boat, like he's
Well, they're
rowing. He has a
both
tiny oar and he's going for it.
yeah, they're both nepo babies, so they got
Yeah.
that going for it.
And they both know TJ's in it, so that's great. Like they know TJ. Walt Conti did the sharks for this, for some of the sharks that you see. He did all the stuff for Deep Blue Sea. So this has, you can see why they did it and why he was there.
Mark, your comment earlier about this not being like Saving Private Ryan because we like the deaths don't hit as much. I think the problem here is the scope is too big.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Like, but it's too big and it's too narrow at the same time because we're only introduced to like 20 people, but we're told there's hundreds, and so we're missing out on all these extra people, but we're not caring about the 20 that we see as much. I don't know.
Well, that's a writing thing because there's a
Yeah,
way to
yeah,
do that. Look at again Titanic. It's a movie where there's this massive disaster where tons of people die, and I care about this. I care about the
Yeah.
fact that there's this disaster happening while still maintaining a focus on a select number of people because the movie knows how to weave those characters in. Like this movie wants to try that, but it's not done that well to make it land. So when you have certain people losing limbs or what have you, like the two people I cared most about is the guys in the jail, like because that's
yeah.
very it's very effective. Like you can make that work because it's a pretty simple scenario. Water rising, can't get out of jail. What do we do? Like that's easy.
But then the guy just goes blind.
Yeah,
He's
and
just
that's
just
that's
like
stupid. Once
like,
they're in the water, it
yeah.
gets stupid.
Yeah.
One guy sees the plane, and I was like he's like waving his hand in front of his face, like, I'm blind. I'm from why?
The
Sea
oil,
blindness.
I know the oil messed with people's eyes when they came up.
Say that.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was actually reading about this and I listened to a documentary about it while driving to work today, and the fuel would get in people's eyes and blind them. So like some people had like, I don't know, that like it caused blindness they didn't really explain it too much, but yeah, they didn't even say that in the movie. It's like, oh,
No,
why?
it's the kind of thing where it feels like facts they pulled and stuff they could
Yeah.
do, but they forgot to like incorporate that properly into a script to give it necessity. So
And,
it's like,
yeah.
all right.
And I think the best deaths are like the open water deaths where, or the reef deaths where the sharks are under the water and they pull people. Like they maybe should have just committed to that as opposed to the VFX. But I honestly hate telling filmmakers how they should have made a movie because it's tough. Like you're on these sets,
Of course, yeah.
but I just think like this one, like, I think Jay, you had a great point, or Aaron, you said it. It stretched way too far. Like they should have consolidated more because the beginning you have the ring, you have the love interest, you have the guy who writes the boxing match, the prisoners, the kleptomaniac guy who steals the ring with the debt. Like you have so many stories going on. The jerky guy, the giggle water, and then you get in the water and that all disappears. And at the end, you have a courtroom. But I don't know. I don't know if this movie works. Like you got to know these people when they're in the water getting killed. And I think the courtroom drama is better than just it ends on like a note saying they used to meet up. It's better than just
Well,
ending like open water does, right? Like how open water ends. Like they just end like that. Like
it can't end on like them getting rescued because that's a false version of that story. Like I get that it feels like a lot to have another half an hour after the go, but at the same time, it's like, well, the story doesn't just end there as far as what's happened in real life because it's a significant thing. It's not just like, oh, this sucked, but we eventually got rescued. And then they court-martialed this guy and to the point where he was basically discharged and disgraced because people did, regardless of the truth, people didn't believe that. So he kills himself. Like,
Yeah, I could have done without that last beat. I think like have him disgraced, but then.
But again, it's untrue. I mean, you don't want that in text either. I don't want to read and then he shot himself. Like that's not good. It's sure. What like Mark, you pointed out the him and the Japanese soldier like having the discuss like that stuff works. Like it's effective. And even like when it gets to the shooting, like yeah, it sucks, but like I don't think it's not done tastefully. At least I think like it properly sets up why he would be driven to that point. It's just it's in this movie. Yes, it's the fifth act, and it's in the midst of the story that was about a boat sinking and sharks. It's like, and this happened. Like I get that could be jarring, but it feel like it'd almost be disrespectful to be like, but they made it out of the water, and then the end. Like that's that's disingenuous at that point.
So I think doing all three is correct. Like I think you got to show the beginning, middle, end.
And you just need a better script.
Exactly.
That's the issue.
And what's crazy? You know what I read? One of the letters that was sent to him was from one of the families from one of the soldiers who died during the wreck. And what the letter said, like, my son would be alive if you hadn't like messed up. Thank you very much. Like that was like the letters he would get. And like that drove him to like beside like the public ridicule, but he would get letters from people who weren't really happy with him that he didn't zigzag and he went in a straight line. So that's really depressing. Like that hits hard. And I don't know that like there's little notes in here that could have made it work a little bit more. I mean, shooting on the water sucks too. So, and they actually made an attempt to be on the water. Like you can tell when they're on, like, I don't like it when movies are on flat tanks. So I like that they actually were in Alabama. They were on the water and they attempted to get some open water stuff, which they achieve, but they would just have to scale something back and like focus more, less characters. I don't know, but it's not what they did in this movie. So I don't really have a way to fix it. But yeah, it's an odd duck. It really is. But like a director like Marlo Van Peebles can make it watchable. I would say, give it enough personality.
I mean, the fix it thing is just the same thing we're going to be saying. It's give this movie more money and have another script. That's the way to fix it. Rewrite, do some more drafts.
Hire the guy who wrote Andor and let him do some rewrites.
Would this work better as a series? Do you think? Like have way
there's
more
a version
time?
I mean, yeah, honestly, there's a version of this that I could see as like a 6-episode, 8-episode. I prefer 4. 3 would be great because Jesus, everything's too long. A 3-4 episode series could easily like it could compact this into parts, right? You get like the initial like this is the setup, this is the mission. We're gonna pick up nuke parts and what have you. Second part's the boat gets hit and sinks. Third part's in the water. Fourth part's court martial. Like that works. You can flesh that out. Give us time.
We could just talk about episode 3. We could just talk about the shot.
Then you guys would save yourselves time. You just talk about one episode. So it all works out for everybody. Everybody is important.
I
I
still am
think,
happy I watched this though, guys.
yeah.
I'm
Well,
I'm
we,
happy
we've
I watched it. There's
yeah,
a
me
lot
too,
of
me too.
stuff in here, and
Yeah.
we hardly talk about some of the other actors, but like James Remar pops in and like he's fun. He gets a scene with Nick Cage where they're like he's telling him like you got to do this thing, and Nick Cage is like, "What's in the box?" And there's electric stuff happening in the background because like
Yeah.
they're fixing the
Oh, they're
boat.
welding it down, yeah.
They're welding
So
it down, so it's like
no one
little
can get
like
into it.
lightning strikes happening behind him. He's like, "What's in the box?" And it's like, "All right, this is the most visually dynamic scene we'll probably have in this movie."
I mean, we've got to talk about Tom Jane. He's the Deep Blue Sea Link. We have to talk. He's barely in this film. He's playing Lieutenant
Barely.
Adrian Marks. He's not even the guy that finds them. He gets the call that he's the guy that goes out and saves them. So, but he's above the title in the posters.
Damn
He's in
right,
it for like 3 minutes, maybe.
3 damn good
Um,
minutes.
right, but I loved every second he's on screen because he's like proper posing and like doing real hero shots for the like 8 lines of dialogue he has. Um, I just
He
love
knows
that
what
he's in it.
He's
he knows
looking
what he's
nice and
doing.
trim. Like
Yeah.
he got a 3-day job.
He has to wear shoes.
Yeah. Oh, he's not
I
slipping everywhere.
I was spending the whole film thinking like, is that Tom Jane? Is that because a lot of these guys? It's hard to tell some of these people apart. They're all kind of dressed the same, and
You're not
they're like,
wrong. I was like, wait, where? Because I kept reminding myself, oh yeah, Tom Jane's in this somewhere. Where is he?
yeah.
Like I know there's Sizemore, obviously.
Is he one of the
Where's
guys
Jane?
back on land? Is he one of the higher ups? It's getting like we're getting like an hour and 20 minutes into the film. He's got to show up at some point.
Yeah,
And there he is. And there he's gone.
He
He's
just helps
the
out on the
hero.
boat and then he disappears. Yeah. And then the guy's the one that tells him to land. His co-pilot kind of gets the more heroic moments. Tom Jane just looks great in a stash.
He does, and his aviators. Yeah.
And he does some good binocular work.
I mean,
He's
when I
like
see him,
stood by the ocean at one point.
when I see a movie set at sea, you got to have some good binocular work or periscope work. One of those two things. If you don't have that,
This has
you're
both.
sometimes both is great. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, you're just going down a few notches if you don't have that to begin with. One of those.
You got good Nick Cage wearing sunglasses action as well, just on the deck. You got all three. Yeah.
You
He's
think he had his
trifecta.
own custom like glasses made for this movie?
Of
That
course
would
he
explain
did.
the budget. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where some of that money went.
But like I know it's a big
For
cast,
specific
right?
care.
It's a big cast. They had Walt Conti make a couple sharks, which you can see, but there's a lot of B-roll of other sharks, and then there's the VFX. They shot on a boat that they shot upwards at it. That was this docked, so that was able to be there. Like 40 million. I don't know. They didn't stretch 40 million very far. Do you think? Did this look like a 40 million? This surprised me when I learned the budget was 40 million. Do you think
Like
Cage ate up
Me too.
5 million of it? Do you think?
Between Cage, Sizemore, Jane, Remar, I'm not saying these guys are all hot, but when you have enough of them, it becomes costly, and there's a lot of extras, like you mentioned. It becomes costly, and you have to rent stuff and be at be shooting on water, not cheap. I mean,
the planes
it
as
adds,
well.
It adds up in the plane. Exactly, replica planes or whatever you're doing, and then on top of that, it's like buy the effects that you can. I mean, there's not a lot of wiggle room when you have that kind of money. Whether or not it felt stretched, it's beyond the point. It's still a matter of how much they have to begin with to work with. Like for a movie of this kind of scope, there's a difference between shooting this and shooting like a dystopian movie because you're at the desert, no one cares. Like this is a movie that has a lot of stuff you have to like work with. Or it's not an asylum movie where it's like in 3 rooms and you just rotate them around and suddenly it's a different computer room or whatever.
You pay no extras either. They're just walking in the back of the street. And if they get shot, they get shot.
Or it's the Grips and the Best Boys. They're like, yeah, look busy. Like,
and also too, this had the cinematographer of Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs, like Andres Secula.
Andres,
yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that. Okay,
and like American Psycho. So they had a solid. You know what though? But that guy has been around so long, and he has shot movies like I Am Wrath. Like he's done enough in Rage, other Nick Cage movies,
and John Travolta movies.
So like he's done enough of these to understand the job. Like he's like, okay, I can do this. Let's go out there and shoot this thing, and it looks fine. Like I think you bring in a pro like him, and you can get the footage you need. You just don't have the time to go 2-3 takes because I bet you Van Peebles was pretty rushed on this, getting everything, especially on sea when you can, because that limits when you can shoot. I don't know, but yeah, it, yeah, it makes you want. This is these movies are odd for me. I don't know why they're made. I guess I
What do you mean when you say these movies?
well, all right. So there's an entire. I know a lot of movies get introduced distribution around the world. I know you can sell them at like con and film
Sure.
festivals. You can get them on Redbox. You can put them on Netflix.
Yeah.
You can, just you can put them on cable. There's international rights that you can get if you slap a big name on there. I understand why they're made, but this one's 40 million. I don't think these guys thought that they were going to be getting a theatrical release on this. So to pour $40 million, which isn't enough, into something so epic, it doesn't seem like good business to me. This seems like, yeah, give it 10 mil. Like this, which wouldn't have worked, but you could at least, have a cheaper product. But I don't know how they planned on recouping $40 million for this, because it made like 1.3 around the world. And I don't imagine the international distribution recouped 40 mil.
It's tricky. You know about this business too, but
Yeah.
it's a matter of it's not a film that you look at think this is going to make box office buffo. This is we're not going to recoup our costs merely on the strength of how well it does in theaters. This is a movie that does everything you just said. It has international rights. It has names you can put into a thumbnail. So when you go onto any streaming service and you see USS Indianapolis, Nick Cage, Tom Sizemore, Tom Jane, click it right away. If you put this in a Walmart bargain bin, easy purchase. $5.99 DVD, $10 DVD, easy purchase. USS Indianapolis, Nicolas Cage. I recognize that name. That's a cool story. Cool. That's where they're making their money. This will sell continually. I guarantee you it's already made back its money and then some. Is it huge? No. Did it need to cost this much money, or was this a wise investment? Not necessarily. But I don't think that any of these people have walked away like, not in the black fairly soon after they made it.
Yeah. I mean, Saban's still in
It's
business.
unfortunate that it's not better or that the money wasn't put to better. I can agree with all of that. But in terms of like, if I'm going to play studio accountant, I get the choices they've made and like how that would round out to eventually them making a level of profit based on what they had to work with.
Did we
Yeah.
stop watching them? So they stopped making.
Patriot,
No one will ever do that because Walmart is a popular place, Jay.
Yeah.
I don't know what the equivalent is over across the pond.
Walmart owns Asda, so that's the equivalent.
There you
they,
go.
Same
they
company.
took away the bargain bins at my Walmart that I used to go check out. There's no more $5 bins at the Walmart near me.
Why? Did someone piss in them? They're being punished?
No, there hasn't been one in months. Like there used to be a 750
There's a lot of piss.
bin. Yeah. I mean, it was me, but
We have separate toilets at ours. We have the DVD section of the toilets, different places. That's
It's
odd.
a big hole. It's in the,
I guess I understand, and I don't want to talk about like Bruce Willis in his later years, but you give like a movie a $10 million budget, put Bruce Willis in it, have Devon Sawa be the lead, $10 million budget, boom. It's just this one was a lot, and
It is. You're not wrong. It's
yeah.
more than the average version of this thing, and it's because the story requires obviously more to work with. And I feel like they thought they might have had something. It's gone through various developmental phases because it's the USS Indianapolis story.
Yeah.
That's ideally a hotter property than just Nick Cage plays a bank robber who has to like get his ex-wife to safety or some bull. Like it's it's a story that has a little more resonance that they're like, yeah, we can make this into a thing, and then it trickles down. So it goes from being like $100 million movie featuring Chris Pine into a Nicolas Cage basically directed DVD movie that just happens to have a higher budget than normal.
Yeah.
I don't know what the plot of The Surfer, Nick Cage's upcoming film is, but it sounds like we could cover it on this show.
Yeah. I mean, I love some
Who
surfing.
knows?
2004, one of my all-time favorite theatrical experiences happened 20 years ago when I went to go watch a movie called Riding Giants.
Yeah,
And it was at an independent theater in Tallahassee. No one ever went there. I watched like Jerry Alone, Elephant, Murderball, like
all the
awesome
fun
movies.
ones.
Yeah.
Murderball rocks. I love that movie. That's
yeah.
a great doc.
And like being alone in a theater watching that and like Grizzly Man, like it was a wonderful experience. But yeah, I remember watching that movie on a theater by myself at an indie theater in the middle of the day when I was in college. And that's like one of my all-time theatrical experiences watching that film. It has nothing to do with USS Indianapolis, but I love surf docs. Just want to let everyone know that.
Did you read the plot of The Surfer, Jay?
It's not available yet.
Oh,
I
it
can see.
is. When a
Oh,
man
okay.
returns to his beachside hometown in Australia, he is humiliated in front of his teenage son by a local group of surfers who claim ownership over the secluded beach of his childhood.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I was on Wikipedia. That's on IMDb. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
sure. We'll cover that at some point.
In Australia, there
Done.
could be sharks.
I mean, and
Maybe
it's a
that's how he gets
surfer.
back at the bullies. He's like, "Come
Yeah,
on, guys, let's
maybe.
go in the water." And he tells them it's a different beach, not the shark-infested one.
This makes
The
me want to
water's
watch Bait
fine. There's
again.
no sharks here. Sharks are over at that beach.
Oh, wait. Yeah.
I think Mike Cage is okay.
Your case is
That's
great.
actually really
I-
good. I'm
I
very
do not-
impressed by it.
Yeah.
Mike Cage is like he's like mildly animated, like kind of into it, but like still drawly. That's my Cage impression.
Yeah, I don't have a cage, so
I
yours
can't
is
do
great.
Mad Cage. Mad Cage is too intense for me.
Just chug some booze, go into a bathroom, strip down your underwear, and scream like in Mandy. No, don't do that, Aaron.
Jay Sundays.
No.
Yeah,
Stop it.
Jay Sundays when his dog doesn't respect him.
Yeah, sometimes Jay
They
has to
never respect
leave
me.
recordings, and I just hear him screaming in the bathroom, and then he comes back, and then we get back on with it.
I just want to play games.
What are your favorite moments in this movie, Jay? Like what when you were watching
Oh.
it? What made you very happy to
I mean, I did like the guy throwing up outside the raft and getting eaten. That's a classic DBC scene. Well, it's a DBC 2 scene, I guess. But it's like that's the kind of stuff we like on this show. It's like people getting eaten by sharks. So I liked that, but then it's immediately ruined by Tom Sizemore clutching his detached leg and joking about it. Like, throw it away, man.
Yeah, this isn't getting back on, guy. That's not
No.
how legs work. Not at
Even
this point.
today, that's not going back on.
That
Like,
salt's
this-
not preserving it the way you think it might be.
Unless you're going to use it for food later, get rid of it.
Or if you're gonna like finally paddle over to the rest of them with using the leg.
Yeah, I liked how melodramatic the guy owning up about taking the ring was. Like, at the end. I'm not some normal kind of asshole. I'm a special kind.
I took the ring. I did it.
But like those two guys, okay, so at the start of the film, we're introduced to Bama and his friend, who these guys apparently have names. I don't know what they are.
look exactly alike too, but they're the same dude.
So Bama is like with his friend, and they're heading to the house of his childhood crush to like see her dad for some reason. On the way there, he's like, "Oh, I've loved this girl since I was 6," and immediately his friend falls in love with her, but doesn't know that this is the girl that his friend's had a crush on the whole time. It's not until they're out at water. And he's like, I loved Clara. I was like, yeah, that's the way you went to the house. That's the whole. I'm so frustrated that this.
You just growled, Jay.
It's so frustrating. Like the friend should have known. Unless it's a terrible friend and wasn't listening. I guess I don't know. That could have been the case. But that was the whole point of they were going there, because he loves her and he's seeing her dad, and then his friend falls in love with her. I found it so irritating that it was some big secret, something revelation out at sea. One of them's going to die. And I always loved Clara. I was like, yes, we bloody know. How did? Yeah. So that's not a scene I loved in the film. It's a scene I hated in the film. To not answer your question, I liked the one of the guys who's guarding the bomb. Like he was super serious, but not the super serious standish guy. He was just like super serious, but seemed okay. Just like he's a Marine or something. I liked him. I have no idea what the character name or the actor was at all. Couldn't find him at all, but I liked that guy. And then he dies by shark.
I think his name was Marine.
It could be, yeah.
Yeah, he has that good moment where he just stares that guy down.
Yeah, that's nice. I liked that. Yeah. Did you two have a scene that you liked that we haven't talked about?
I was hoping that this would become like Project Wolf. What's the name of that movie, Aaron? Project Wolf, where they're on a boat and there's a secret guy down there who just murders everyone on the
Korean
boat.
Project Wolf Hunting.
Yeah, Project Wolf Hunting.
Yeah.
It's on the list. We'll
gory and kind of RoboCop, kind of Terminator.
I want to see it so bad.
It's
Haven't seen it yet.
crazy.
It's a crazy movie.
Yeah,
Want to cover it?
I mean, this movie I didn't know it was going to be the 3x that it was. It was much more expensive than I thought it was going to be. Like, because I went through a phase. I don't know if you know this, Aaron, but when I watched every Nick Cage movie to see if he wore a sleeveless shirt in it. And so you go to like Score to Settle, you go to all these movies, and I always thought this was like a real cheap, like just $5 million movie. And I was pleasantly surprised at at it. So it subverted my expectations that way. And then just I hated all the shark stuff. The VFX shark stuff made me very annoyed. But yeah, no, the scene with Cage and the Japanese commander at the end, there's a certain earnestness to it that I thought they were able to capture that I liked. And of course, like the crap bird thing made me really happy. Like that's just like you're supposed to like these guys, and then they just push this dude down, he gets murdered. So yeah, that was a good moment. But I mean, I guess that's it.
I mentioned the Remar scene already, where he's detailing the plan and whatnot, and there's the electricity and whatnot going on in the background. Because I do think that's legit. Like, it's a fun way to like shoot that scene and provide a little sense of like foreboding to it. I do think the court martials, honestly, like this movie, if they handled the at sea stuff better, this would be a solid movie.
Yeah,
Like whatever flaws I have with like the dialogue or whatnot, I do think if that section was handled in like a better way, we'd probably be like happier to praise what this movie's doing. It's like, you know what, it's not a lot, but it still has some cool stuff. Like, it'd probably, be easier to defend in some capacity. As it stands, it's like the thing that is the most like out there interesting thing about what happened to, a military operation. It just kind of the bed in that department. So like you have to like slog through that stuff to get to the other things. Because I do think the court martial scene is interesting to watch. Like, it sucks, like the circumstances that brought them to the situation, but it's like, well, it's handled well enough as a courtroom thing. Not realistically, because I've seen court martials handled better in movies, including William Friedkin's the last movie, the K-Mutiny court martial, which was pretty solid. This is just like, it's just like a courtroom scene, but they put military people in it. That's not really how it'd be, but whatever. But in the realm of a movie, like it's fine. Even like the prosecuting lawyer, I get what he's doing as far as it's like begrudgingly doing this case or whatever. Like there's stuff there that I think works pretty effectively. And yes, it leads to the Japanese involvement of it, which is like, well, that's curious, but that explains why we had like sub sequences featuring those characters pretty heavily. It's like there's a lot of focus on the sub all of a sudden when they could have just had a sub shoot torpedoes. Like, oh, because we're going to bring the character back later in the movie, and now this all tracks.
So that Japanese captain, Yutaka Takeuchi, is the actor. He's also in Battleship. Should we cover Battleship?
Yes.
I've never seen Battleship.
Oh, it's delightful.
It's a movie.
It's bombastic and insane.
It's definitely a movie that it lasts 2 hours.
Very expensive.
Okay, I'll put it on the list.
It has one of the stranger subplots you'd expect. That's like, it's Peter Berg trying to be respectful to like disabled vets, but it's also like, but not every disabled vet can act. Here we are.
He knocks out an alien.
He knocks out aliens.
But I guess I think I finally got it. One of my biggest issues I think with this movie is I find a lot of joy in watching movies that hit above their weight. Like, there's a certain joy. Like, when I learned that Crawl cost, I think 13 million to make, it was thrilling. And I immediately went and researched it and like learned where they shot it. Like, they went over to Europe and shot it, but like learning about how they handled the VFX and the stage and where they built and how they flooded it. There's a level of ingeniousness to stretching a budget. Yeah. And like, I love, I sat around on a lot of film sets, and you see a lot of money get wasted. You see a lot of movies with best intentions not like being great, or just being kind of mediocre. And so this one, I never feel like it punches above its weight. There's like, it's just there. And I think I can't even praise, like, I don't know. I wish I could praise it for being like, oh, it really did a good job of handling the $40 million budget in a wise way to make it look great. And it doesn't do that, because you just see more money in places and then less money in other places. And so it doesn't even, I can't even praise it for wisely handling its budget. So like that kind of takes away some of that joy for me. And then it just sort of becomes a movie that has a few good moments and the shark action is probably the weakest stuff. But yeah, I wish, I don't know. Maybe they didn't have enough time. Maybe the script. I mean, you can really hit above your weight when you have a good script. So I think Mario Van Peebles was hampered in that regard. Like, I don't think he had much of a chance. He just had to make a cromulent film that could be sold worldwide and slap Nick Cage's face on it and hopefully get sold at a Walmart bargain bin, and which it probably was. But yeah, it's just another movie, I guess, with some personality to it, which is kind of a bummer for me. Like I guess so. There's nothing for me to really latch onto to support for this film, other than it was a roller coaster ride because I had no idea about the 3 acts and like how big it was. So I guess that's my main issue with it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's about covered USS Indianapolis Men of Courage. I think we've covered that. Do
Whenever
you
I
wanna know
get
how
serious and like collect all my brain power
it's
into a
time to end
thought,
the show?
yeah.
So how is USS Indianapolis Men of Courage similar to Deep Blue Sea? I have a surprisingly long list, actually. There's talking to the camera, leaving a record of yourself, which Nick Cage is kind of writing, but it's similar to LL Cool J doing his legacy. There's a dance floor in which the women outnumber the men. Early on in the film, in which it's actually referenced that there's not enough men on the dance floor.
So there's not too many blanks on the dance floor?
Sure.
Do you know that Flight of the Conchord song? Oh, it's lovely.
It's been a while.
Too many dicks on the dicks on the dicks.
Oh, I miss them.
Do I bleep all of those? I don't know. There's a big facility description dump about the ship they're on, basically. There's a chef on board. There's a chaplain on board. They're different characters. It's not the same character, but they're different characters. Whereas in Deep Sea, same character. There's a World War II submarine equipment, because the whole of Aquatica is a World War II submarine thing. There's a bird on board, which disappears. That bird could have stayed with them. I wanted some more of that bird. Like Tom Sizemore has a bird, and then when they crash, it's gone. I was annoyed. I wanted that bird to stay with them. There's talking of, I can't read my own writing. Talking of shark history, big brains, and humans moving to the bottom of the food chain. That's all in there. There's someone has diving experience. There's bad weather coming in. There's a bloody hand injury. There's explosions at sea. There's flooding corridors. Difficult to open doors. Communications are down. I should try to save important documents is one scene. High jump into the water. They're saying their prayers in a room filling with water. There's sharks. They find dead bodies in the water. A tourniquet is put on a detached limb. There's cross necklaces. And Thomas Jane is in this film, as discussed. So, a bunch of stuff. But who cares about that? What we know is how deep and how blue is USS Indianapolis Men of Courage.
Oh, my God.
Deepest
So,
bliss.
Aaron, as I'm sure you know, Deep Blue Sea is on average 14.5 meters or 47.5 feet deep and about 31% blue. Do you think, on average, USS Indianapolis Men of Courage is deeper and or bluer than Deep Blue Sea?
I do not think it is deeper. I'm going to say I do not believe it is bluer either.
And you are correct on both fronts, but only just on one of them. So depth-wise, I was looking up.
Wait, what? I'm correct on both of them, but just one of them?
No, but only just on one of them. One of them is close. But one of them is one of them. You're definitely correct. One of them, like
your British turns of phrases always get BJ.
I'm sorry. So yeah, depth-wise, because there's a bunch of stuff up in the air, this ends up being up in the air. But I looked up the actual depth that submarine was when it hit the ship, and so that's so submarine stuff takes it down literally, but the plane stuff lifts it back up. So this ends up about 3 meters or 9.9 feet up in the air. So this is a little slightly lower than Muppet Treasure Island, slightly higher than Rennie Harlin's Cleaner. And so it's 75th on our list of depth. Blueness, Deep Blue Sea 30.93% blue. USS Indianapolis Men of Courage 30.85% blue. So it is very close. It's only 2 marks away. Because The Final Countdown, another aquatic military film, fits in just between those two at 30.91. So this is our 35th bluest film, less blue than Final Countdown, slightly bluer than Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, which will come up in Aaron's plugs very shortly. So that's how deep and how blue this is. And that will do it for USS Indianapolis Men of Courage. Aaron, where can the listeners find you? What have you got to plug?
Well, I do host a podcast called Out Now with Aaron and Abe. My friend Abe and I discuss the weekly movie releases, and we also have lots of bonus fun episodes as well. We just covered the Oscars, for example, but we also do commentary tracks every month. And in connection to the Deep Blue Sea, the podcast, we have been covering the Pirates of the Caribbean films in all of our commentaries as of late. We just recorded all 2 hours and 49 minutes of us talking about Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. So just be sure to check that one out for sure. Yeah, you can find that out now for any where you can find podcasts. You can find everything I do over at my personal Substack, thecodezeek.substack.com. And I write movie reviews for Leave Entertainment, Blu-ray and Criterion reviews for Wise of Blue, and I'm on all the socials at Aaron's PS4.
Excellent. Aaron is a great follow because I often find out about films I had no idea were existing because you've reviewed them. So you're just a wealth of information as to what's coming out. And you always get them at least 2 weeks before I know about they exist. So, yeah. Mark, plugs.
Whenever I'm looking for holiday gifts.
Mark, praise Aaron.
I'm like, hey, Aaron, what's good? And then he's like, well, here's a list. And I'm like, okay, I'll get those. So, yeah. And his reviews are always solid, too. And he knows me pretty well. So we just did an episode about the Monsterverse, Aaron and I. So go listen to that at Movies, Films, and Flicks. That was a fun time. And, you know, we talk about staying in order. I couldn't even go in order of the Monsterverse because I think we covered Kong Skull Island last. My brain just doesn't work like that. Even when I mow my lawn, I don't have like a system. I just kind of go around. It's like, I guess I just don't do the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 system well.
I was listening. I thought I'd you'd skipped Skull Island. This is why I'm listening to the episode, is to hear you talk about Skull Island.
Well, I knew it. I wanted to keep you on to the end there. But yeah, I don't know. It's Movies, Films, and Flicks, and then Deep Blue Sea. Yeah, listen to us. Listen to the old episodes, and you know what? I did a commentary with Alien Resurrection. I've been thinking about that movie a lot lately. With the Out Now with Aaron and Abe.
Yeah, we did that a couple years ago.
Yeah, that was a couple of years ago. Time has lost.
Time
has lost all meaning.
It wasn't recently.
So. Mark, we've been doing this show for almost 4 years.
Wow. It's gonna be the 10-year anniversary of Movies, Films, and Flicks podcast. Next year,
25th anniversary of Deep Blue Sea.
That's insanity.
Well, listeners, you can.
I'm just gonna stand over here and go. I'm gonna go scream in a bathroom, guys. Let me go
on all social media at Deep Blue Sea Pod. Email us deepblueseapod@gmail.com. And next week is going to be the 100th film I've worked out how deep and how blue it is for this podcast. Nice. And it felt right that it should be a shark film. And so we're covering the film Shark! For the 100th Deep Blue Sea. Wasn't planned at all. It's just how it's filmed and scheduled. This film just called Shark. So that's what we're going to cover with Jess Manzo Kite joining us for that show. She picked it, I think, because of the exclamation mark. Neither of us have seen that film before. So looking forward to finding out just how shark it is next week. But as for USS Indianapolis, Men of Courage, I never have to say the title again. Thank you once again to our guest, Aaron Neuwirth.
Thank you for having me.
I've been Jake Lewitt.
Mark Hoffmeyer.
Deep Blue. See you next week.